Joe, a really premier matchup this weekend against, well, a rising brand against another rising brand, Nebraska versus Colorado. Look, I think Colorado, who last week had a really interesting game against North Dakota State. A lot of people tuned into that game, and you're in a dogfight in the fourth quarter with an FCS opponent. Going against a Nebraska team who's yearning for a winner to get back to relevancy. They get a five-star quarterback in DeLeone Raiola, who played really well in week one. Joe, this is a game inside of game of matchups between both of these opponents. I guess, how do you see this one playing out?
First of all, entertainment value. I mean, this is awesome. DeLeone Raiola bursts onto the scene, has an unbelievable game against UTEP. So we're juiced up about getting to see him square off with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. This game deservedly is going to have a ton of eyes on it. And the reactions after it are going to be probably outlandish depending on in any direction. If Colorado wins, if Nebraska wins, there's going to be a lot of overreaction from both fan bases. I look at what Nebraska did, and I see a lot of offensive success and positive signs that would dictate that they can have a more well-rounded approach to what North Dakota State did and really stress Colorado. But I lean Colorado in this one, Blake, because I think it's very risky to put faith into a true freshman quarterback. And if anyone wants to criticize me for bringing that up and saying that, it's important. True freshman, as much as I was just pushing for DJ Lagway to start, in a rivalry close game like this, sometimes they try to do too much. And DeLeone Raiola is the king of sometimes trying to do a little bit too much. I think he's going to have a huge game. But again, to put full faith in a true freshman against Shedeur Sanders, who's going to be a top 15 pick, top 5 pick, maybe even higher than that, and Travis Hunter, who is the best player in the upcoming draft, in my opinion, I just think that that's where the separation is. This game is close because certain position groups are strong for one team compared to the other, and there's a little bit of balance in this matchup. I'm going to pick the team with the established superstars that have played a little bit more together, and if they need to pick up a late touchdown, I have faith that they can do it.
You're going to go with the established superstars. I'm going to go with the established fronts, the established O-line, the established D-line.
It's fair.
Joe, look, man, I can't get over that last week North Dakota State ran for 157 yards on Colorado, and Colorado could only generate 59 rushing yards. Joe, when you can line it up and run it right at them and you have a quarterback like DeLeone Raiola, I think things become a problem for Colorado. You remember this game last year? Wasn't it Jeff Sims who, this was a game last year, and Jeff Sims was out there, and Nebraska had so many different opportunities to win the football game.
It did get blown open, though, eventually.
Yeah, it did, but Jeff Sims did what? I mean, they made multiple stops after multiple stops, and Jeff Sims couldn't get – I don't see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where I would push back on me, who is going to take Nebraska, who I agree with you. I'm terrified of those receivers versus this Nebraska DB core. I am terrified. That's why, I'm going to pick the game because I had no money on it. I'm staying completely away from it.
Oh, I wouldn't bet on this.
I don't trust anything in this because I think that you're right. These are two different style fighters that are going up against one another. I feel like Nebraska is the team that just wants to jab you and take body shots the whole time, and Colorado is the team that only wants to throw those haymakers and knock you out every single time, right?
And they leave their chin wide open, though, and that's the problem.
And that's the problem when they do that. Nebraska last week, Joe, against UTEP ran for 223 yards. And it wasn't just that they ran it for that much that impressed me so much. It was that they went 11 of 17 on third down. They didn't ask Raiola to do much. They continued to run the football and be dominant all throughout the game. The 40-7, I'm going to be honest with you, Joe, is such a farce in this one from last week because the way that they dominated on the lines of scrimmage, right? And I'm looking at that defensive front of Nebraska, and I'm like, hey, man, I get that this is UTEP. But when I watch teams like Georgia or watch teams, I'm not saying they're that, but that's how you look like you dominate one of these teams, right? They dominated majority of that game up front, And they kind of took the air out of the ball, just gave Raiola some easy throws. The question that I have here is, like we mentioned, can Nebraska's DBs hold on? Joe, I got to ask you the honest question. Can Colorado run the football? Because if you can't and you can't establish a running game, Shador's going to be in a lot of trouble. They got defensive linemen at Nebraska that can get after him, and that's where I think that it starts causing problems if you can't generate a run game. That's my biggest worry. But as I finish it out here on this, and we'll just kind of go back and forth here, I'm with you on the Raiola, man. If Colorado – like Deion can throw something at this kid that gets him confused and he throws a pick. And I get that. I just don't know if he's going to make those big mistakes like over and over again, because I think they're going to run the football and not put the game solely up to him too.
So you first of all, you brought up Nebraska's secondary. There one play that really stood out to me where UTEP had this. Yeah, they had this little 5'7" receiver who just separated and had a pretty easy time scoring. They've got receivers in bunches at Colorado, as we know. That's part of the reason why I think that they're going to be able to pick up those types of plays, that if Nebraska's trying to control the clock and really try to control the time of possession, that if they're given a small amount of time to work, which they did against North Dakota State, if they needed to put points up on the board, they were going to be able to get that ignition to the fire to get themselves back into the game. But you bring up the really important part to this. Colorado will not win this game, and my prediction will be wrong if they can't have a better time running the football. And more importantly, the interior of their offensive line has to play better. They were allowing way too easy of pressures to North Dakota State in that game, and they could not get any push. And I'm going to keep coming back to this. I don't like Pat Shurmur. I am so sick of Pat Shurmur, who is such an overrated offensive coordinator, and he stunk when he was a head coach of the New York Giants, and he stunk when he was the offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, and he was slightly above average when he was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings that got him the Giants job. If I see him run a freaking inside zone between the guards rushing play on second and medium again, I'm going to lose my freaking mind. He does the same redundant, predictable, stupid play calling over and over again. They can't run the ball because Pat Shurmur sucks at play calling. So yes, to your point though, they need to run the ball, and Shurmur's got to stop calling the same stupid plays over and over again.
Joe, does it worry you that last week North Dakota State went 7 of 13 on third down?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Nebraska, here's what I feel like is going to happen in this game. I feel like that North Dakota State, in the way that they attacked Colorado, is the great value version of what Nebraska is going to try to do. Like, you just basically last week, Colorado faced the same style of offense, same style of what they want to do. And so they're going back after it in week 2, but they're going up against it with a better opponent, an opponent that will knock you out. Joe, I'm going to tell you, man, brother, when you can establish the running game like North Dakota State did last week, and you hold on to the football for 36 minutes, which is exactly what Matt Rule wants to do here. Joe, look, I get that Jimmy Horn is a dude and a beast. He had 7 catches, 198 yards last week. Travis Hunter had 3 touchdowns. He also had 7 catches. I just don't know how you don't take the ball out of their hands and keep it away from them enough to just not wear that defense down completely. And by the way, this is what was my deciding factor in this one. Where's the game played?
It's in Nebraska.
I think it's time. You know what I think is going to happen here? In an ironic way, I think that this is what gets Nebraska rolling a little bit. Like their fan base, their momentum. I think that this game means more to them than any game that they've had in quite some time, if I'm being honest.
I mean, there's definitely truth to that. I push back on your time of possession comment because winning time of possession only matters if you finish drives. North Dakota State didn't finish a lot of their drives, and that was why they lost the game. If they can't finish,
Nebraska will be that way.
Colorado had a really strong time in the red zone against North Dakota State. I'm just saying, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion.
You think Nebraska's not better than North Dakota State?
They are better than North Dakota State. Obviously, they're better than North Dakota State, but North Dakota State still is a very good competitive tune-up game compared to playing UTEP. That needs to be acknowledged. All I'm trying to say here is that I'm not saying that Colorado is guaranteed to end their drives, but they might try to sustain drives and they might try to slow the game down. They still need to finish, though. Like, they need to finish drives. They can't just try to take time off the clock.
I'm with you. I feel you. That's what she said. All right. I mean, that's what she said.
I don't think that applies for what I said. I don't think that works. Do you have to finish drives? That's a reach.
You said they have to go in and out and finish.
That's not, no, you were manipulating what I said.
Penetrate, go in and out, and finish.
Okay, now you're really adding words to this.
Okay, I'm just saying.
We had a super chat, by the way, before we
did we? Okay, let's get to it right here.
This video is sponsored by the online fitness training camp presented by Chris Gates Fitness. When I first started talking about Chris, about partnering with our show, not only was I excited to have a fitness sponsor for our pod, but more importantly, when I found out about how he can help people achieve their goals, I was even more bought in, because when the football season starts, it is so tough to stay on top of things and also to be able to enjoy yourself on Saturdays when it's game day. With Chris Gates Fitness's online training camp, you're going to be able to effectively stay focused, consistent, burn fat, build muscle, and do it with a like-minded community of individuals working towards the same thing. On top of this, you're going to be able to get direct coaching from Chris and the ability to ask him questions with an access to a live Q&A where you can get direct, personalized support from Chris himself. Don't wait any longer. If you're trying to get in shape during this fall and you want to be able to do it with the right support system, head on over to chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp or click the link in the description. And you need to do it today, because you can get the first month. Personal training is expensive, folks. The first month for only $10 when you use that code Ruffino Joe. Don't wait any longer. Head on over there. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions, with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.